The internet has made it possible for us to learn about all the biggest and smartest scams that have been done in human history. It's interesting to see that a large portion of these cheats have happened in the modern times. Mostly, these were done by charming and certainty-friendly people, while others were crafted by gigantic organizations that should be working under the careful focus of government controllers. In today's video, we're showing you the top 10 biggest scams in history. But before we get into the video, make sure you subscribe to our channel and press that bell icon to never miss an update. So let's get started. Number 10. Charles Ponzi. Charles Ponzi, the maker of the first fraudulent business model, or as we today know it, a Ponzi scheme, was brought into the world in Italy and first showed up in Boston in 1903, bearing $2.50 to his name. His underlying hustles were confined to producing checks and helping illicit transients, serving a 5-year term in jail in the US for his inconveniences. In 1920, Ponzi found inspiration in worldwide postal reply coupons, each costing 5 pennies. Coupons bought in Spain at a preset swapping scale could be recovered for a nickel back in the US, and the falling worth of the peso implied there was an amazing chance to bring in cash. He did precisely that, first enlisting individuals from the less fortunate economies in Europe to send him postage coupons, which he then, at that point, sold in the US for a benefit. Number 9. Equity Funding Insurance Scam. During the 1960s and 1970s, the equity funding corporations of America turned into a Wall Street darling through its exceptionally effective and productive offer of extra security arrangements that were attached to common assets. Sadly, for financial backers and policyholders, 60,000 of those arrangements were phony, and the organization offered the phony approaches to reinsure organizations for a benefit, offered other fake strategies to pay the expenses on the first, and surprisingly, faked the passings of policyholders to gather the profits. The organization bowed out of all financial obligations in 1973, and a few top leaders went to jail. Number 8. Quiz show scandals. Before the finish of the 1950s, quiz or test shows were prevailing to such an extent that the $64,000 question turned into the very first show to overturn I Love Lucy from the #1 spot. Upwards of 24 game shows were on at that time, and the opposition was wild to such an extent that many began compromising until a long authoritative 21 champion challenger asserted the show was manipulated. His allegation, and the numerous others that would before long follow, were rarely demonstrated. However, they ignited criminal and congressional examinations, thus brought into the revelation that each and every quiz show went behind closed doors until 1963. That is to say, when Merv Griffin thought of Danger, a show that would console distrustful crowds by offering the candidates the responses first and afterward asking them to answer. Number 7. McKesson and Robbins. Today, McKesson Corporation is one of the biggest medical organizations on the planet, but in 1938, when it was still McKesson and Robbins, it was at the core of probably the greatest misrepresentation of the century. A lifelong lawbreaker named Philip Musica, who during Prohibition involved a drug organization as a front for smuggling tasks, purchased the medication organization and immediately enrolled his siblings to set up imaginary accomplice organizations. They swelled resources for the tune of countless dollars in the present cash and skimmed millions, which they then, at that point, appropriated to themselves by means of the phony accomplice organizations in a trick that changed America's bookkeeping and examining regulations. Number 6. David Dominelli. The 1980s are regularly considered a debauched 10 years, and the Ponzi conspirator J. David Dominelli released is a great representation of the demeanor of the time. Dominelli baited financial backers with guarantees of significant yields by playing the unfamiliar money market, revealed the Times. These business sectors are famously unstable, yet Dominelli figured out how to turn benefits in the early long periods of 3% or more monthly. But the dominoes in the end fell, starting in December 1983, when checks began to bounce. Also in 1984, J. David and Company went into bankruptcy. Number 5. Victor Lustig. The Eiffel Tower was developed for the 1889 World's Fair, matching with the 100-year commemoration of the French Revolution. At that point, it was the tallest construction worked by people and saved that title for a considerable length of time, until the Chrysler Building in New York outperformed it. In 1925, when Victor Lustig was 35 years of age, he figured out how costly the pinnacle had become to keep up with. He therefore concocted the plan to sell the Eiffel Tower to a salvaged material vendor. Lustig apparently tracked down the most guileless salvaged material vendor in France to give a statement and, surprisingly, figured out how to have a sizable payoff added in, and he pulled it off as well. The salvage material vendor was so embarrassed about being deceived that he didn't go to the police. After the trick, Lustig moved to Vienna in a train with bags loaded with cash. He considered the scam so effective that he moved back to Paris the following month to rehash it with an alternate salvage material seller. Number 4. The Dale, a trick on 3 wheels. During the 1970s, during the tallness of the gas emergency, a cheat named Geraldine Elizabeth Carmichael made the 20th Century Motor Car Corporation and revealed the Dale, which the organization pitched as its response to the fuel emergency. Asserting 70 miles per gallon, the modern-looking 3-wheeled vehicle immediately pulled in $30 million in speculation and $3 million ahead of time deals. An examination by a car and driver, in any case, uncovered that there were no assembling parts, no innovative work offices, no creation plans, and no vehicle. Number 3. Nicholas Cosmo. Nicholas Cosmo has been at the focal point of various cash tricks. Subsequent to serving 21 months in prison for cheating financial backers, Cosmo established Agape World Incorporated in 2000 and was rapidly back to his conspiring ways. Financial backers were purportedly informed that Cosmo would utilize the cash to finance present moment, got span advances to independent ventures. Consequently, the financial backers could expect significant yields, detailed the Wall Street Journal. Cosmo confessed to working an around $400 million Ponzi plot and was condemned to 25 years in jail, revealed Bloomberg in 2011. As per the Bloomberg report, the plan endured from 2003 to 2009, when the casualties lost about $195 million. Wall Street Journal additionally detailed that Cosmo was requested to pay $409.3 million in relinquishment. Number 2. James Paul Lewis Jr. Cash tricks frequently include distorting current realities, yet James Paul Lewis Jr. made it a stride further. Lewis worked the Orange County-based financial advisory consultants and guaranteed financial backers yearly returns of 18% to 40%, as per a 2005 delivery from the U.S. Branch of Justice. Despite the fact that he let financial backers know that he would utilize the cash to buy and sell upset organizations, make business credits, rent clinical gear and money insurance payments, Lewis had different designs for the money. According to the DOJ discharge, Lewis utilized the roughly $300 million to advance himself as well as other people. He allegedly purchased homes and extravagant vehicles, put resources into different organizations with financial backers' cash, and utilized FAC assets to exchange cash fates. Nobody figured out how to detect the venture trick for 7 years. In the end, this Ponzi plot raised more than $300 million, involved a bigger number of more than 3,000 financial backers, and made casualties lose something like $50 million, as per the delivery. In 2005, Lewis confessed to mail misrepresentation and tax evasion. Number 1. ALVES dos REIS. ALVES dos REIS was brought into the world in Lisbon in 1896. What's more, when he was 28 years of age, he printed himself such a lot of cash that he made a monetary emergency that drove a patriot military rebellion. REIS produced an agreement with the Bank of Portugal that approved him to print another arrangement of banknotes and move towards the organization that recently printed Bank of Portugal notes, Waterloo and Sons, to make all the new money. As the printers utilized genuine, unique plates to print the banknotes, the fabrications were great. REIS had 200,000 monetary orders printed, worth practically 1% of Portugal's whole GDP, similar to distributing around $2 billion USD in money today. That's all for this video. Have you heard about a scam that blew everyone's mind? Share it with us in the comments below.